Hi, Dan. Look, first of all, thanks very much for taking part in the Business Spotlight series.
You're
So
welcome.
I'm going to
Thanks for
hand it
having
over
me.
to you straight away, just to introduce yourself, your company, and what you do.
Great. Well, yeah. Hi, everyone. My name's Dan Roberts. I'm the CEO at Nayms. Nayms is building a digital insurance marketplace. We replicate a lot of our design from Lloyds of London using blockchain technology. So infrastructure that allows insurance companies to build on-chain balance sheets where they can raise funds, write risk, and manage all of the administration, legal, regulatory pieces of that risk transfer. So yeah, really trying to provide a new platform for technology digitization where what insurance is for Lloyds, we want Nayms to be for insure tech. Insure tech businesses having a back-end operational infrastructure that's just as digital as they are.
Excellent. Sounds really interesting. And how long have you been running for?
We're coming up on 3.5 years. The first 18 months, I think, was a lot of research and telling anyone and everyone what we were trying to achieve. So over the last 2 years, really getting into our stride and yeah, ready to go live very shortly.
Excellent. And obviously, you mentioned that it's related to insurance, the insurance sector. Is that the main sector it's targeted at? Would that be the main end user?
Yeah, absolutely. It's yeah, exclusively an insurance platform for digital insurance programs. So that still keeps it as a very general, broad proposition. Almost too much. We don't want to be too boil the ocean, as they say. But yeah, really, it's infrastructure where within reason, any line of business can run through our network. We're more the technical infrastructure and the adjacent legal and regulatory structures that go along with that. Whereas any individual balance sheet within our marketplace that's run by an insurer, can really be writing any line of business. So still very broad, but is restricted to insurance.
Great. And in terms of the countries that you operate in, is this in the UK? Is it worldwide?
So we have our regulated business out of Bermuda. We were the first company there to graduate with the full digital asset and innovative general business insurer license. So the full versions of both of those licenses. We took 2 years to get through the regulatory process, the sort of sandbox process. And have graduated to the full licenses there. So yeah, we operate our business out of Bermuda. We have our parent business here in the UK.
Excellent. Trips to Bermuda sound good.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there are some perks. We have the same with our hiring policy. We're based all over the world. I'm in London. It's a very grey day. But yeah, we have people in the mountains and near Denver and all the way through to Greece and Bermuda as well. So some nice spots to visit.
Superb, yeah. And I guess you mentioned there obviously it's been developing for a while. Was there any impact of COVID on the business?
Well, COVID brought about a real major bull market or bull run in crypto. Not just from COVID, but people, generally were moving online and spending more time on computers and getting to, know this sort of technology. So that was one of the driving forces, which ended up being a very positive, having a positive impact on companies like ours when it comes to raising funds and, getting in front of the right players. We were a fully remote business before COVID. So in terms of working remotely, there was no change there. I guess the only change was we have to justify remote working less now to investors who, now all are comfortable with that setup. So no main office. We're based in 12 countries around the world.
Excellent. And so it's great. It's always great to hear positive things that came from COVID. So in terms of the future, what does that look like? And what would you say are the challenges moving forward?
Well, the bull market that I was alluding to is no longer for a number of reasons. And so that brings less challenges than I think other crypto businesses may have. Our our business is less tied to crypto sentiment. We're a real world use case. We're introducing insurance as an asset class fundamentally, and that asset class is largely uncorrelated to market risk. The crypto market going down doesn't change the likelihood of a hurricane or a car crash or anything else. So so unless someone's reading the crypto news whilst driving. And so we're less struggling there, but I think there is obviously a vast reduction in liquidity in the crypto space, which is liquidity that we would look to benefit from in capitalizing particularly our early programs. And so essentially the context there is, on the supply side of our marketplace is capital markets. And so institutional investors can invest in a marketplace of insurance pools, capital pools. And that exposure is largely uncorrelated, but still people have to have the funds and have the desire to move capital around, particularly in these early these early tech companies such as ourselves. So I think the challenge over the next year will be making sure that we're building appropriately for the space, regardless of how where liquidity is at. And then we have a few things on the horizon, becoming rated as one of them. Moving to leverage as a business model will be a challenge of ours, but we seem quite ahead of the schedule on that. A few challenges over the next 12 months, and hopefully after that point, the space will start to recover from some of the bad press and bad actors that have been existing in the space, and we'll be able to benefit from some of that return in liquidity.
Perfect. Yeah. Any predictions for how you see it going in terms of the crypto side?
I tend to remove myself as much as possible from providing any estimates there, but
good.
I think the general, the general sentiment is that it feels like the space has been quite robust. The recent bad actors was from bad individuals instead of bad technology. Institutions in particular are really learning about this stuff. There's more individuals who know about it that are being hired by these big institutions now. So over the last couple of years, they've built up their own thesis and their own desires over how they want to utilize this technology. And hopefully that hasn't taken too much of a hit with recent news such as FTX that I'm alluding to. Yeah. So to be seen.
Great. And in your own experience, what would you say has been the biggest learning you've had as a business owner?
Well, a boring one is, good processes, good onboarding, a good way of hiring. I think something that we really have right now is the team and how they're onboarded, how they get up to speed, how they fit in within everyone else, how we collaborate. We're a remote business, so that comes with its challenges, and making sure we're overlapping and having conversations when we need to, but we're not having meetings after meetings that aren't needed. So to begin with, a lot of the chaos was coming from lack of process and figuring out how to bring in good people, and now we're in a much different position. So if I was to start it again, I think that would be you forget that those are the sorts of things you might want to have a good idea of how to scale from the beginning, instead of 2 years in.
Sure. Yeah, a common journey, but really good advice. Yeah. And in a similar vein of giving advice to yourself, then, have you got any advice you'd give to your 18-year-old self?
Loads of advice probably. That guy had no idea what was going on. I mean, what I was proud of my 18-year-old self doing was just getting started. I guess, and people hear that advice a lot. I think the caveat on that is maybe see general research as just as productive as starting a company. And so my first company was a food waste business looking at smoothies, and it was called Banana Berry. It was a very fun artisan business for me. But I could have, and I spent about 18 months working on that, and ultimately didn't really go anywhere, and that was fine. And I didn't have huge intention for it to at the time. I was just enjoying it. But I could have also spent those 18 months just researching everything and anything that I found interesting. and diving into different industries, diving into problems, diving into entrepreneurship and all of that. So yeah, I think there's a balance between making sure that you just get going versus making sure that you get going in the right direction, and maybe a bit of research to begin with would help you get going in the right direction. Arguably some of the more wacky startups that I did in my early 20s was that learning, and has become that story that has allowed me to get Nayms off to a good start. But perhaps there's a balance to not jump right in straight away, but definitely don't wait too long. Because there's lots of people that have ideas and want to start something, and if they're saying that a year, 2, 3 down the line still, then that's a pretty good sign that you should just start something up and get going.
Yeah, great advice. And it sounds like you enjoy sort of researching and learning about things. What would you say inspires you?
I guess it changes. With Nayms, the thing that I love is the variety. I'm lucky that I get to have conversations across legal and tech and operations and funding and strategy and all these different things. We have not being modest, literally smarter people than me coming in and running these divisions now. So, I get to go in and learn from them and provide a, perhaps more overview perspective than them, which becomes your value as a CEO and a founder. So yeah, I think what drives me is just that variety. It's constantly changing and interesting, and no days are the same. And then the other one, which is I guess more of a what might inspire you to get something started, is your ability to look at something that just didn't exist before you started it. Going from 0 to 1, a company becomes this amalgamation of different people's lives and input and work and partners and investors, and it just becomes this kind of ethereal thing that just totally didn't exist before you had the idea to kick it all off and start having conversations with people. So that's cool, is that you really can create something from nothing, and people should have a good think about what kinds of things they would want to see in the world, because with the right people and the right conversations as the first step, they can exist.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, if you can imagine it, you can create it, which is great. And look, as a final thing, is there any sort of offer or any news you'd like to share with the audience?
In general, our business is, could be seen as being quite niche. It's the overlap of digital assets and insurance. I think if there's anyone listening who's into insurance and wants to learn about digital assets, then we're the place to be. If you're on the digital asset side and you want to learn about insurance, then the same. We're kickstarting we're setting up and launching a podcast, which is called The Missing Link. We're doing that in partnership with Mana Search, which is our search firm. It's called Searching for Mana. They have a really successful podcast. And so, the purpose of The Missing Link is to really go through a series of interviews with people who really know their stuff in this intersection between insurance and digital assets. And so if you're on one side and want to learn about the other, or vice versa, then perhaps that podcast is a good place to come and check us out.
Superb. Well, look, thank you very much for taking part.
Welcome.
Really
thank you.
Find out something. It's a different business, as you say. It's niche and it's different, and that's great to hear about, and great to hear your journey as well. So looking forward to seeing what's happening in the future. Looking forward to seeing the interview series there as well. Thanks again for taking part.